Hello, today we're going to be discussing the Designer Epic 3. This is a brand new sewing machine on the market. I'm not going to give you every single detail about this machine, but what I will do is try to give you comprehensive information so that you can make an informed decision about whether or not the Designer Epic 3 is for you. So without further ado, let's get into it. I would like to start off by saying this machine retails for almost $22,000. That is incredibly expensive and enough to purchase a used car. However, I do know that a lot of dealerships do offer financing with machines. So if you're in the market for this machine, that could be an option for you. Designer Epic 3 weighs 33 pounds and its embroidery unit is 17.6 pounds for a total of 50.6 pounds in weight. You will not be carrying this machine off to any quilting retreats because of the weight. However, I'm sure that a lot of you will not have a problem with this. In size, it is 24 by 10 by 14, and that is roughly the same size as a 1.9 cubic foot microwave, which is pretty large. The throat space is 12.2 inches across and 5.5 inches tall, which means that you can fit pretty much any project underneath your machine. Most sewing machines are oscillating hook machines, which means that the hook moves in a semicircle around the bobbin and then circles back in order to complete the stitch. However, the Epic 3 is a full rotary hook machine, which means that the hook rotates in a full 360 around the bobbin. This allows for smoother operation, it's quieter, and it can run at higher speeds because it doesn't lose momentum. However, a lot of people would argue that rotary hook machines are a lot more complicated than oscillating hook machines, and they would say this because rotary machines use a gear or timing belt linkage between the top and the bottom shafts of the machine, and in order to keep this working properly, it must be set very precisely. This means that you can't just use any old kind of thread inside of the machine, and it also means that you need the timing adjusted a lot more frequently in order to maintain that precision. A lot of people love their Singer 201 because it also has that rotary hook system. However, the Epic 3 is a lot more complicated. It has a lot more moving parts than your Singer 201. So that is just something to think about. We're just getting started, but if you haven't already, please do subscribe and tap that notification bell to receive updates. Now, the manual does not specify any specific type of threads that you can't use in the machine. It says that you can use all threads, but it does give you a little chart there, as many manuals do, that shows you what threads to use with which needles. Also, it doesn't specify when you should have your machine serviced. However, as a general rule of thumb, if you sew on your machine 2 to 3 hours every day, then you should be having your machine serviced twice per year. However, if you only sew on that machine 5 to 8 hours per week, then you only need a service once per year. So I just thought that I would make sure that that is known. Now, as far as speed on the machine, this is where I get excited because the Designer Epic 3 has a speed of 1050. That is faster than the Bernita 790 sewing machine, which has a speed of 1000. And you would think that 50 more stitches per minute isn't a big deal, but when time is concerned, it actually really does add up. Designer Epic 3 has so many amazing features on it that I won't be able to describe all of them today, but what I will say is that this machine has a 9mm stitch width, which will allow you to see your stitches very well without them being too scrunched. You have 870 stitches on the machine and 10 embroidery fonts included as well. And for those of you who like to make garments, you will be happy to know that this machine includes 16 buttonhole styles and 3 eyelets. In addition to the 870 stitches that are included on the machine, you also have something that's called Stitch Creator, which allows you to create your own custom stitches inside of the machine. This is a standout feature, but you also have the ability to save all of your settings so that you can leave your machine and come back to it without having to reset everything. Now, as far as I know, the Epic 3 has the largest embroidery hoop on the market of 18 by 10, and that is massive. I have no idea what you would stitch out underneath that embroidery hoop with it being that large. Also, you have a free arm so that you can hoop hard to hoop items like bags and sleeves, and that is quite amazing. Gone are the days of needing to mark your fabric for placement. Instead, you don't just have a laser on this machine, but a full grid displayed that you can use to get perfect placement every single time. In addition to having the grid, you're also able to project your embroidery design directly onto the fabric before it's stitched out, so you can see exactly where that design will land. And you can also do the same thing with your stitches. So you can project the stitch onto the fabric and see exactly what it will look like before you actually stitch it out. You'll never have to worry about the quality of your stitches with the Designer Epic 3 because it has a deluxe stitch system which adjusts your thread to the thickness of the fabric so you don't get any skip stitches. I know it's no substitute for having a long arm machine, but you can use it to top stitch your quilts, which means that you can avoid spending money on that long arm fee. You also have the built-in IDT system, which is like a built-in walking foot for the machine, and this also helps to balance the stitches in the machine so that you get more even stitches. In addition to all of this, you have AI on the machine, which tells you whether or not your foot is compatible with the stitch on the machine that you have selected, and that just prevents a lot of boo-boos from happening on this machine. I know a lot of you must be wondering whether or not this machine comes with a straight stitch plate, and yes it does. And that straight stitch plate is wonderful because it does help you to prevent from sucking thin fabrics down into your needle plate, and it also does help with getting better stitches when you're doing embroidery. As with most electronic sewing machines nowadays, you have access to an app called My SewNet app. And this app allows you to digitize embroidery files depending on what subscription plan that you get. And you also have access to a ton of ready-made embroidery designs. So that is just something to think about if you would like to pay for the app or not. But you do get a 90-day free trial to get to test out the app and see if you like it or not. And I know that there are so many features on this machine that it probably would take some training in order to learn how to use it. And this is why they have offered a Joy OS Advisor, which is an onboard interactive tutorial so that if you get lost or need some help, you can get help with figuring out how to use your machine directly from the screen. Now that I've spoken about a lot of the specs and the features of this machine, let's go on and talk about the warranty. You get a 20-year warranty on the frame, and that is a limited warranty. You also get a 5-year limited warranty on the electronics, and that is really the main part that might wear out on you. The electronic components are warranted to be free from manufacturing defects for 5 years from the date of purchase, to the extent that if any defects is reported within the 5-year period, VSM Group AB will provide free replacement parts. VSM Group AB shall not be responsible for shipping. It will only cover labor for the first year. So after the first year, you have to pay for the labor costs, which who knows how much that's going to cost. And then you also have to be responsible for shipping on this 50-pound machine. So that is something to think about. In addition to the 20-year warranty on the frame and the 5 years on the electronics, you get a 1-year limited warranty on parts. The parts of the product, other than those subject to normal wear and tear, are warranted to be free from manufacturing defects for a period of 1 year from the date of purchase. If any manufacturing defect appears in these parts within 1 year of purchase, we will repair or replace any part which proves to be defective for workmanship or material without charging you for parts or labor. So there are some conditions in that statement, because it says that other than parts subject to normal wear and tear. So what parts are there on a machine that aren't subject to normal wear and tear? And then also they have to be the determiner of whether or not the defect was caused by you or them. So that sounds a bit sketchy, but I'm just putting it all out here. This is what they have written. Whenever I'm in the market for a new machine, I always like to go and see what others had to say about the older models, because that is often an indication of what your experience may be like in the long term with your brand new machine. So let's go ahead and look and see what others had to say. One reviewer on patternreview.com mentioned something very interesting about the Designer Epic 1. At the very end of her comment, she says, "This machine is big. I did have to do some machine juggling to get it to fit into my sewing room. I will not be able to use the biggest hoop, which is huge, unless I move the machine away from the wall. The dealers brag about how lightweight it is for its size. It's not light. I can barely lift it. I'm a weakling, however." I found this little snippet from the comment to be extremely interesting because the Viking Epic 3 has an even larger hoop than the first Epic that came out years and years ago. So you really do have to think about your space and how much room you have in order to be able to stitch out designs on this 18 by 10 hoop. And then also the dealers were mentioning how lightweight the machine was for its size on the Designer Epic 3, but it's still a massive machine. It's 50 pounds, for goodness sakes. The next comment that I have highlighted comes from Missouri Star Quilt, and it's quite old, but I think it may shed some light on another potential issue with getting the Viking Epic 3. "I am an employee of SVP Worldwide, the owning company of Singer, Viking, and Pfaff. I also work as a manager of Viking Sewing Gallery and have some things to say about the issues being said." I'm going to skip on down here because they speak about a specific location and I don't want to get into details about that. But they go on to say, "From my training experience, Viking sewing and embroidery machines are engineered in Sweden and the parts are made all over the world. They are typically constructed in Taiwan or China. The U.S. ships the machines from two warehouses, one in California and the other in Tennessee. Parts are shipped from these locations for repairs and go on ridiculous back orders that can last for months. If I can't get something for months on end, I see if another store in my area has it and just get it transferred. However, repair parts aren't carried by these stores, but our repairman has better access to repair parts because he is in contact and supported by my headquarters SVP." That thread was written all the way back in 2014, and a lot has changed since then. Since then, we have seen a global lockdown which interrupted the supply chain. That supply chain has never gone back to normal. So if they were having problems with getting parts back then, I have no idea of what it is like now. Also, another thing to mention is that many of the sewing centers for Viking are located inside of Joann's fabric stores, and Joann's fabric stores is in the throes of a potential bankruptcy at the moment. So I have no idea how that will affect Viking and what they will do or where they will relocate their sewing centers to. So that is just something else to think about. Let's go over to complaints board and see if the complaints over there mirror any of the issues that were mentioned in the comment all the way back from 2014. This person had the Viking Designer Diamond Deluxe. There were parts that it needed that were no longer available, so she eventually upgraded to the Viking Epic 2. And she says this: "I found a place an hour and a half away that had been working on my machine. He is awesome and trying to help me because I'm so frustrated and discouraged. But this last time I took the machine, he said that the head has to be replaced and he has to wait for the part mid-November-ish. I have not been able to sew or embroider much at all since I got rid of my Diamond Deluxe in October of 2021. I have spent a total of $1,700 or $17,000 and am so upset that you can sell products that expensive that don't work." Okay, so it's sounding like the service centers are far away and the parts take a long time to come. So that is in alignment with the comment from 2014. I'm not going to take this one comment for gospel. Let's go and look at one more to see if it aligns with what she just said. I too have a Viking 85 machine, which I have had almost a year. I love the machine, but when I took it to the Melbourne store inside Joann's, I was told the machine, which I paid 300 plus for a year of maintenance agreement, would take 8 to 9 weeks to repair. It has a minor problem, and I wanted a routine maintenance completed. I was also informed I would void my warranty if I took it to another service technician. There's lots of other complaints over on Complaints Board and also on Better Business Bureau, but I'm not going to bore you with any of that. Instead, I'm going to leave you with this commentary that's listed down at the bottom of Complaints Board. They say, while Husqvarna has a high level of trust, our investigation has revealed that the company's complaint resolution process is inadequate and ineffective. As a result, only 13% of the 61 complaints are resolved. The support team may have poor customer service skills, lack of training, or not be well equipped to handle customer complaints. So I'm going to leave you off with that. And I hope that I have given you enough information in order to be able to make an informed decision about whether or not you would like to purchase the Designer Epic 3. Please leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. I would be happy to hear from you. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe to receive more sewing related content. Peace.